This happened to me 4 years ago. It's the most extreme and life-threatening situation I've been in. The eyewitness account you are about to read is valid and is mine. For some understanding, this happened in the United States. It was the summer of 2012. My longtime boyfriend and I had recently gotten married. Even though we were poor college students and lived in a dinky apartment, we were having a great time. That particular summer, we gathered with our friends at the local movie theater almost every weekend. One just down the street from our apartment had cheap movie tickets. A night out that was under $10 was certainly within our budget. Anyway, one Thursday night, I received a call from this group of friends inviting us to watch the midnight premiere of the newest Batman movie. I had just finished working a 12-hour shift and was pretty tired. I almost refused the invitation and thought of crashing into my apartment instead. However, I didn't want to miss out on the fun, and it was a movie I'd wanted to see for a while anyway. Indeed, it wouldn't do any harm to stay up later than usual and miss a few hours of sleep, right? At 10:30 p.m. we met at the theater. As we walked inside, we passed large cardboard cutouts of Catwoman and Batman, greeted by the smell of buttery popcorn and the chatter of excited moviegoers. The ticket booth was to the right of the entrance, and just above that was an electronic list of movies being played. The midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises was in bright red letters. Being paranoid that the tickets would sell out quickly, one of my friends swung by earlier that day and purchased tickets for all of us. We bypassed the ticket line and went straight to the ticket taker. She smiled at us and kindly directed us to Theater 9, which was on the right side of the lobby. If only I had known what I do now, that among the crowds a killer was lurking. As I walked across that tacky red and purple carpet toward Theater 9, I could have been walking to my death. I think about what I would have done often if I had known. Pulled the fire alarm, called the police, screamed for people to run away, but of course, I had no way of knowing what was about to happen. Oblivious to the peril I was putting myself in, I pushed open the doors for Theater 9 without giving it a second thought. The hallway in this theater was shaped like a U, and you could go either right or left. Theater 9 was the most extensive screening room in the building, perfect for accommodating midnight premiere crowds. The screen was motionless and gray. Not even the previews had started yet, because there was still a good hour and a half to go until the movie started. We entered on the right side, so all seats were to our left. I remember being surprised at just how packed the theater already was. Just about every heart was filled, much to our dismay. At first, it seemed like we wouldn't find a spot to sit together. Now, the way this theater was set up, there was a section of seats right in front of the screen. This area was flat, with about 5 rows of seating in this section. Many seats in that section were empty, but sitting right in front of the movie screen sucks, and none of us wanted to sit there. One of my friends spotted a row with 5 empty seats, all next to each other, perfect for the number of people we had. These seats were about 3-4 rows up from where the seating rows started to elevate. We ran up the stairs before someone could take the chairs and filed in. My husband Brock sat in the 5th seat. I sat next to him, and my friend Samantha sat next to me, and my friend Samantha sat next to me on my right side. Her boyfriend Tommy sat next to her, and another friend named Leo sat in the aisle seat. We spent the next several minutes casually chatting, joking, and laughing. After a while, my 3 friends went to the lobby to buy drinks and that addicting movie theater popcorn. While they were gone, Brock and I passed the time by people watching. The theater was bright since the lights weren't dimmed yet, and I could see everyone. There were a lot of people dressed in Batman t-shirts and hoodies. One person even had a mask and one of those shirts with an attached cape. There were a lot of kids in attendance as well, which wasn't surprising because even though it was a Thursday night, it was summer vacation, so that meant no school the next day. Of all the people I saw, the person I will never forget was the little girl sitting in the same row a few chairs away. She was charming, blonde with blue eyes, and passed us several times on her way to the lobby, each time coming back with various snacks and popcorn. Overall, people seemed very excited to see the movie, and the room was filled with energy and laughter. After an eternity of waiting, the lights started to dim, and the previews began. Just like in every movie I've seen before, a quick animation flashed across the screen, reminding us to get refreshments from the lobby. We were already devouring that popcorn like ravenous animals, to silence our cell phones and to make sure we know where the emergency exits are. The animation had this ugly CGI cat in a tuxedo sitting in a movie theater. I casually glanced at the bright green emergency exit signs on the movie screen's left and right sides. I didn't think much of the remainder, like usual. After that, I only remember one preview for The Man of Steel. The others, I'm not sure what they were about. When the movie started, the theater erupted into cheering and clapping. The movie's title, The Dark Knight Rises, exploded onto the screen. This is followed by the scene where Bane is hijacking a plane. I thought this scene was fantastic, and it immediately caught my interest. Only when the movie started to get a little less attractive did I remember just how tired I was. I decided I would close my eyes at the more tedious parts to get a little bit of rest. I had been awake for 20 hours, so I was rightfully sleepy. My eyes were closed for most of the duration of Batman and Catwoman's encounter. I don't remember what was happening in that part of the movie. Perhaps some of you have seen it and know what I'm talking about. When I opened my eyes again, Bruce Wayne was on his computer, digging up information on Catwoman. This is the last scene I saw. I never got to watch the rest of the movie. All of a sudden, a loud bang erupted from the left side of the theater. I screamed a little because it startled me. A strange smell started to fill the auditorium. It smelled like a firework, so I thought it was a cherry bomb or something similar. Had someone thrown fireworks into the crowd as a prank? Then, near the right side of the movie screen, the dark silhouette of a person caught my attention. They were just a black frame against the bright movie screen. A series of flashing lights were coming from this person. It was a weird moment where time slowed down and everything went strangely quiet. I was completely frozen, unable to move and unable to think at all. It was like my brain had stopped working entirely. Brock caught on immediately to what was happening, and he grabbed me. He pulled me to the ground and lay on top of me, shielding me with his own body. At this point, time and sound returned to me. I could hear the gunshots ringing out across the theater. People were screaming. The movie was still playing on top of it all, creating a chaotic explosion of sound. I realized the flashing lights I had seen were bullets flying out of a gun barrel. An instant sensation of adrenaline flooded my body. There was nothing I could do except lay there and hope that the bullets I heard ripping through seats and walls wouldn't go through me, too. At one point, the shrapnel hit my head, cutting off a good chunk of my hair, and as I reached for the spot to make sure it wasn't bleeding, hot pieces of metal fell into my hand. I was lying face up so I could see everything happening. The lights from a still-playing movie danced across the ceiling and walls. My friends were on the floor with me. Our unfinished bucket of popcorn was spilled all across the floor. Leo had his legs sticking out into the aisle because there wasn't enough room to hide completely behind the seats. At some point, Samantha's water bottle, which had been in the cup holder between our hearts, exploded. Water splashed all over my face. The smell of gun smoke was overwhelming. Riot-grade tear gas made me cry and caused me to cough uncontrollably. There was another smell, too, the horrible metallic smell of blood that I'll never forget. I remember my lower body feeling wet all of a sudden. I thought this came from the leaking water bottle, but I soon realized this wasn't the case. All of a sudden, things went strangely quiet. The bullets had stopped for some reason. Tommy shouted, "Let's get out of here!" We took advantage of the opportunity and made a run for it. We ran down the stairs across the front of the screen towards a bright green exit sign. We crammed into a small, closet-like space where the door was. It was so dark we had a hard time finding it. We were screaming and slamming on the walls to find the door, blinded by the tear gas and dumbfounded by shock. Then, finally, my hands felt the metal door handle, and I pushed against it with all my strength. The door flew open, and the light of a nearby streetlight flooded our eyes. We went against the door so hard that we all fell onto the concrete. Samantha lost her pink flip-flops just outside this doorway. Eventually, the police started letting people leave. I jumped into my truck and booked it out of there. I was so panicked that I didn't even think to return to my apartment, grab my cell phone, which I had forgotten, and call my parents or someone else to help me. I was angry, upset, scared, and, most of all, still in shock. Was I going to lose Brock only a month shy of our first wedding anniversary because of some psychopath with a gun? Thankfully, when dawn rolled around, I found the hospital he was treated in. This was in the next city, maybe 45 minutes from the theater if you're going the speed limit. I was so happy to be there. The hospital staff was all welcoming and understanding. After making sure I wasn't injured, they let me wait in the IQ room where Brock would be placed in when he was done recovering from surgery. I was so glad he was alive. Both Brock and Tommy survived, though many others weren't so lucky. I found out the following day, after some much-needed sleep on a hospital couch, that 12 people were killed in this shooting and over 70 were injured. I remember they first thought 15 people were killed, but the actual number was 12. The little blonde girl sitting in my row did not survive. She died in the theater no more than a few feet from us. She had been shot multiple times. A heartbroken police officer cried during his court testimony and tried unsuccessfully to save her by carrying her out of the theater and sending her to a hospital. Tommy was rushed to a different hospital in the back of a police car. He underwent surgery and made a full recovery. The bullet missed his hip bone and narrowly missed his urinary tract and bladder. According to the surgeons, my husband lost almost half his blood. Brock made it to the hospital just in time. He would have died any later. He underwent several blood transfusions and was in the hospital for 21 days. The wound to his leg was severe enough that they had to amputate it after trying unsuccessfully to save it. It's been so long since the shooting happened that my husband, friends, and I have been able to recover from it somewhat. The event was pretty horrifying and has left us scarred for sure. I wouldn't consider that part of the story creepy, though. No, the weird part is the shooter himself. I later learned much about him from the murder trial that would follow in the coming years. Though my encounter with this man was brief, he has dramatically affected my life. To know that people like this exist is disturbing. He is undoubtedly one twisted individual that I never want to see again. I learned everything from watching the televised trial in early 2015. This guy was going to school for neuroscience or something in California. I guess he was a pretty smart guy. However, for some reason, he was obsessed with killing people and had a stalker mentality. After dropping out of his university, he moved to my state and chose my local theater to commit a mass shooting. Before that, he planned on hiding along remote hiking trails up in the mountains, jumping people, pulling them into the woods, killing them there. Though he never went through with that idea, he stalked my theater for months and had this shooting all planned out for the night of July 20th. Though I never saw him before, it's unnerving to think this guy could have been watching us every time we went to the theater, and we would have never known it. We were completely unaware of what he had planned against us. This completely ruined my sense of security because who knows what the stranger next to you is planning on doing to you.